You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 244 of Ecentriana's favorite podcast. And I say that knowing that Brian Nichols is in the room next to us nowadays.
Yeah.
But I have no shame. I'm Jeremiah Morrill. Today I'm joined by co-host Mr. Dakota Davis and executive video audio producer Zach Burcham.
Professional button pusher.
Today's episode is the start of our candidate series. Tonight we have Nansi Custer. She is running for the District 54 state representative position here in Indiana. We're going to be talking to Nansi about all kinds of things, why she decided to run for office in the first place, what's important to her, but then getting into some issues such as education, economic development, land use, the roads, COVID-19, and then the food and beverage tax. Food and beverage tax is something we've covered a lot on the show, so if you want to hear about that, then make sure you stick around until the very end.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you. Other times, what do we do? I've tried something new and it's gone horribly wrong. You can't read through the microphone stand. I've only said this 200 times, but no, I have to read it. Sometimes we'll provoke you. Other times we'll make you laugh, but hopefully you'll always learn something new. And you can already make fun of me. We just did 15 minutes with Dakota complaining about his first world problems.
Yes.
For Patreon. And if you want in on that action, boy, do we have a deal for you.
That's right. To find out what kind of phone you need to not buy, then make sure you go to patreon.com/bossHogOfLiberty, or you can go to bossHogOfLiberty.com and click the support now button. And that will take you to our Patreon site. And that is where you can go to support the show every month if you enjoy what we do here. Those are the folks that pay for the studio. If you are in the club, then you get access to a Facebook group that is very exclusive. You get show notes ahead of time so that you can see what we're going to talk about. You can follow along with us. Make some notes if you want.
You'll get them 2, maybe even 3 hours before the start of the show.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is the same time we get them.
You also, sometimes get a little bonus stuff, like we've sent out stickers and postcards and branded chapstick even, all to those folks. And if you support at $50 or more a month, then you get a shout out at the front of every episode. Those folks are Miss Christy Avery from all the way in Fort Wayne, our favorite car dealer in the continental United States, Jonathan Phillips, and then Mr. Anthony Meyer, who is a long haul trucker. I saw that he's in Montana now.
Was he in Spiceland protesting over the weekend, or he was up in the upper Midwest still?
I think that he was working. He's doing his job, hauling goods, keeping the country going, doing his thing. We also have a sponsor for the candidate series.
We do.
Our sponsor this week is Weiland's Flowers in Newcastle, Indiana, and that's where we've always gone. They bailed you out on Valentine's Day this year.
They did. I came back. I took my wife on a wonderful 7-day Caribbean vacation, and then I got back home and it was Valentine's Day, and I realized that the Caribbean vacation wasn't enough. I still needed to go to Weiland's to get some flowers.
That's true.
And at 10 a.m. I sent them a little note and ordered something, and by 4 o'clock they were at the house on the holiday. That is coming in clutch.
That is true. We appreciate the heck out of Weiland's Flowers. They are the best, florist in Newcastle, Indiana. I'm just going to say it. They're going to get my endorsement.
Congratulations on the flowers.
I'm very coveted, I guess. Who knew? We appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting the show.
Former Libertarian Party chairman's endorsement in a Republican primary. You caught so much hell. I love it. There's nothing but joy. I hope every one of them get a check out of you. Because we're going to drag it out. We're going to have candidates from this race on 3 different nights.
God, I'm not made of money. Maybe if we had more Patreon members, I could afford that. But yeah, Weiland's Flowers, they're the best florist in Newcastle, Indiana. Make sure you go there, pick up some flowers for your significant other, even if you're a woman and you want to buy your man some flowers, that's fine. Yeah, I would appreciate some flowers.
I don't think that's
I don't
an
think
official.
I've ever gotten flowers.
I don't think that's an official tagline of Wylands, but we do say thank you very much to them. They have they've supported us. I think this is the third time that the candidate series has been supported by the Wylands crowd. So we're very appreciative.
We also have merchandisetchip.com. We're going to put Zach Birchman is going to put a link tree in the live stream, and that's where you can go to find all of your Boss Hog of Liberty merchandise.
All right.
So, Nancy.
Yes, sir.
We already talked about your phone, but now we want to get to know you.
Okay.
I still want to know about her phone. You got a 561 number?
969.
969. That's like early Rush County. But is that a home number you transferred into a cell phone, or is it a?
That would be from 19
something.
93.
See, our family at the time I got my cell phone,
and it was a
bag phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
2003, my family, we all got cell phones in Rush County because I was a Rush County resident. I was in charge. I went to the little Verizon store on the north side of Rushville, and we got 4 digits all within a click of each other. So we're all 561s. So, and cell phone numbers are for life now. You've got it forever. It's not like if you move, you got to change it. You just Brian moved from Philadelphia, and he's never going to have a 765 number.
No, poor guy.
He's got a 315 from northern New York, actually.
My dad has a 969 number. It's interesting. A bag phone. That's so.
My first phone.
Were you like? Did you have a really important?
He's about ready to call you old. First, he's not going to endorse you, and then this is going to get this is going to get
How
worse.
old are you?
No, I was going to ask like the only people that I know that had bag phones. They're like either they had a really important job, or they were just balling out of control, and they wanted to make sure everybody knew about it.
I had a bag phone.
Well, I actually in my car, so having communications is a big deal. So not only did I have a two-way radio, I mean, our whole family, we use that, being on the fire department for 37 years, So communication's key. So yeah, and we kind of actually at one point, it was like a test. It was not so much a bag phone, it was permanently mounted in the car. Like the phone.
A car phone, yeah.
Yeah, a car phone. So I had a car phone, I guess, not a bag, a car phone. And a two-way radio that had, all the fire frequencies and all the stuff in it. So when I responded, I was miscommunication right there on the spot.
You had the whole thing.
Yeah.
So let's get to know you a little bit. Nancy Custer, running for State Representative District 54.
Yes.
Open seat for the first time since I was in high school.
Yes.
It's District 54 has included Rush County now for a decade. Mm-hmm. So I assume you've gotten to know Representative Saunders over that period of time.
Well, actually, I mean, I know Tom. Tom's great. I live 20 feet from the Washington and Center Township line. So my actual representative was Cindy Zemke.
Okay.
25 feet on the other side.
And you've
of my
just
house.
gotten drawn in.
And I've gotten drawn in. So I actually used to be 55.
Okay.
So now I'm 54.
So all these big changes, you've been rolled in.
My district went from 55 to 54, and my age went from 54 to 55 this year. So yeah.
All right. So let's learn a little bit about you. What makes you tick? Why do you say, okay, I want to give up my luxurious life of farming and making fun of Dakota I want to jump in and I want to be state representative.
So just to kind of give you a little background, like you said, I mean, I grew up on a family farm, still live there, work there, also help with the family electric business, firefighter and EMT on volunteer department for 37 years, which kind of makes me a little scared to say that, but it's been a while. I've always been involved in government and activities. I was the EMA director for Rush County from 1998 to 2008. Moved on from there after being recruited during a declared disaster. Got recruited by FEMA and the United States Department of Homeland Security. Took on that role.
Now, we have a lot of libertarian listeners, and when they hear that you were working for FEMA, Dakota, what are they going to want to know?
When the camps are coming.
You're good. It's all good.
It's not a real thing.
I told him, we were talking before you got here. So I actually got to go, I was hired on, and truthfully, they hired me mostly because I have a Class A CDL. I can drive semis, I can drive, tankers and whatever, and doubles. And so that's really why I got the job, because they were needing Class A CDL drivers. So I get out there and I go to Washington, D.C. to headquarters, and it's all cool. Great. I'm going to be a logistics management specialist. Okay. Well, they pull us in, and there's some other there's multiple programs within DHS and FEMA. And so next thing you know, they decide that they need accountable property officers, which at the time they were using it for anybody that has been in the service and had to use any kind of accounting procedures. They used the old LIMS service that the military used to use. I mean, like from the Vietnam War. I mean, it was archaic, but that's how we track our equipment. So I got the opportunity. And I mean, they literally walked into the room and they're like, you, and you come with us. I'm like, okay, go to your hotel, get your stuff. You're going to Mount Weather for a month. I'm like, okay, what's Mount Weather? So for those of you who don't know, you need to Google Mount Weather and kind of check it out. It's pretty cool. So I got to go there and train.
It's a facility in Virginia.
It is. It is a facility. So
right over
Google
there
it.
by the CIA.
Yeah, well, Google it. Anyway, let's just say I had a little bit of a security clearance, but I didn't get to go too many levels down there. So
all right.
I was pretty much stuck on the ground.
Didn't get to see where all the
I didn't get to go subsurface. But it's a very interesting facility. I did get to watch an evacuation. It was extremely interesting of how they evacuate the Supreme Court. So if there's a threat on Washington, we have to evacuate our government leaders. And I got to watch a drill on that. And man, that was impressive. They simulate things, and depending on who's where as to what bunker everybody goes to.
So if there was some sort of a small revolt in January, they know what to do with the leadership.
Oh, absolutely. They go.
Make sure they get out safely.
Different. They go, different directions. I mean, that's in our continuity of operations plan.
All right.
So it's very interesting.
So you have the experience with EMA and with FEMA, and now you're looking at running for state rep. What's your motive? What's the motivating factor for you to say this is the right race for me, and this is the time I want to get involved?
I thought about it for a long time. And obviously, I respected Cindy in her position. I joked with her for years. When you're ready to retire, let me know. And then we redistricted, right? And so I had tossed the idea around, and I've been active in working with legislators for several years. I've helped work some legislation, get some things through, helped do some stuff this year, suggesting things. Here's what we need. Here's a problem. And I'm not so much about creating new laws as I am about fixing existing ones that we have, or maybe even eliminating them, right? So as I watched where our country's going and everything that's gone on, I'm a proud American. I mean, I'm running for a Hoosier office, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans. And I felt like I had watched our country has become so polarized, that there is no ability for people to have conversations anymore. And I had to laugh because when I was talking to you earlier today, said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be comfortable." And I thought he has no idea what he's getting into, because I was on the phone till 2:00 last night talking, because I will talk. I want to have these conversations. And I think that's something that's missing. Everybody has an agenda, everybody. And that's not a bad thing. But I think when there's a failure to communicate and you can't reach some kind of a good middle ground, I feel like that's where we're at. So I want to be able to contribute to that and bring those pieces together.
So what kind of issues were you working on this year, as an example, as you were working with Representative Zimke and with Representative Saunders?
Actually, I had approached Senator Lysine last year about this, but and this is going to sound weird, but I'm a Republican and I love pollinators. I care about the environment, right?
So honeybees,
butterflies. I raise. Okay, so I'm like the queen of milkweed, and I'm like the Johnny Appleseed. I'm like Nancy Milkweed Seed, and I collect it and I go scatter it because monarchs are endangered. So anyway, but one of the issues we've had is the emerald ash borer, right? And you guys see just driving the devastation that is caused.
We've given up. Yes,
yeah.
We're fresh out of ash trees.
And when you look at the landscape now, I mean, we've probably lost a third of the trees in the state.
I was the president of the Memorial Park Board at one point, and we had at least 50 dead ash trees in one section of the park that we had to have taken down one summer. Yeah, absolutely, it's very significant.
Yeah, I drive around a lot for work, and like I'll be driving down county roads. and you'll just see like an acre of trees that are just all dead.
Mm-hmm. You're starting to see more. They look, because they're breaking off mid tree. It looks like a tornado went through there.
Yep.
So anyway, one of the things I brought up, and again, this is listening to people and being on the ground and understanding, what's happening, right? So one of the issues we have with agriculture, drainage is important. These ash trees coming down, especially, like in my section, is along a Little Blue. Okay. So I've got ash trees. The neighbors, we've all got these ash trees that are falling down into the river. Well, where I live, Little Blue is not navigable. And so between the Corps of Engineers, County Surveyor, DNR,
nobody wants to deal with
it. Can I just take my tractor and pull that out? And, and for farmers that maybe have an excavator, right, that they can reach in and get it, that's great. You can do that. I don't have an excavator. What I need to do is back the rear end of the tractor down in there far enough so I can get down there, hook it up, use the 3-point hitch, lift that butt end of that tree up to drag it out. You can't do that. It's illegal. So meanwhile, we've got all these trees that are down everywhere causing flooding issues, right? So that was the thing that I talked to her about. I said, we need some common sense. We're not disturbing. We're not digging up the bed. We're not, tearing things up. We're not going to let, if I've got, got an oil leak, don't back down in the creek to pull that tree out. But those kind of common sense things, those are the kind of things I want to work on. That, okay, we're not gonna come and, IDEM's not going to be on you. DNR's not going to be on you. You're not going to get a ticket. We're not going to impound your tractor. Kind of the same thing, with the outlets on the tiles. A lot of the tiles go into our small rivers and streams. Over the years, those things silt up.
They clog up, sure.
Yeah, well, they clog up, and then it blocks that tile, and you're going to get no drainage. You ought to be able to go in there and dip that out. You're not digging a gravel pit. You just need to get that silt out of there. Technically, you can be fined, and it's illegal.
Yeah,
so it's those kind of
trying
common
to be
sense.
a good steward of the land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these are conversations you've had with legislators, or have you seen them? Have you seen success yet?
I actually haven't got to read what the final passage was on the on that particular topic. It went in with the Senate bill. I can't think what it was. It had to do with the soil and water in the committee. So
Okay.
I have not had a chance to see what.
But it did get put into a bill, and potentially
they were working on that because they understand, and especially we're in this situation with the ash borer. We've got so many trees going down across the state that it is not practical to say, I can't hire somebody. So trying to do things like that are common sense, thoughtful projects people can do and be responsible stewards of their own property. So, that's an example of working with doing things like that.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about education. One of the big topics around education this year has been House Bill 1134, which my sister and her boyfriend, they're both public school teachers here in Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I heard a lot about it. And that was supposed to be addressing critical race theory in schools. It didn't make it past the Senate. But, just like we saw with constitutional carry, sometimes bills and topics can get reintroduced year after year after year and chip away until they finally do make it law. So I want to ask your thoughts about that specific piece of legislation, but then also just education in general and what you think the legislature's role is in education.
So I'll give a little heads up here. You may have to cut me off on this one. And I'm also
Okay.
going to issue a disclaimer. So, many people may or may not know, obviously school choice is big, has been big. I do not have an education background. And yet in 2015, when our local school corporation, decided to close our local school,
the Mays
Elementary at the time, a group of community members got together, and because when you lose your school, you lose your community. I mean, the community slowly dies. So we got together and we worked with Rush County.
When you lose the school, you lose the park restaurant eventually, and
Exactly.
then all hell goes.
And I forgot to tell you, I used to own that restaurant. So see,
there you go.
Yeah, small business owner. I love to cook. I forgot to bring food for you. I will. You have me back next time. I will brag about food. But anyway, so we look as a community, and it wasn't anything against the school corporation. It was our local community, and what can we do, right? I didn't know what a charter school was. None of us did. And people started throwing out that, well, you can start a charter school. Okay, what is that? And that school really originated from conversations with educators because we were like, why do we want to start a school? Rush County's got great schools, but we started talking to parents. We started talking to teachers, and we started understanding the options we could have as a charter school. And, it wasn't that anything was wrong with the current system or the current schools, but there was a need for something different. And educators needed more freedom, needed to be able to teach again.
There's not a one size fits all education approach,
correct.
so it gives them a workspace.
Correct. So, just straight up front and honest, I founded a charter school. I am currently the president of the board of a charter school. And I believe in them, and I believe in public education. I believe that we need to find the best ways that kids learn. And that's really a topic. My main focus right now is what I have learned, because, I was made fun of because, well, she's not an educator. What's she doing? But, sometimes, and this kind of applies to the legislative process as well. Sometimes you need somebody who maybe isn't an expert to walk in and take a look and go, yeah, that kind of needs to be some changes made there. So,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You just see that everywhere. It's not just specific to, schooling or in government. It's literally you just get so used to things. If you're looking at even, it can be as simple as I may have a problem or am trying to figure out how to organize something. And I've been racking my brain on it for 3 hours, can't figure it out. And then you have Jeremiah comes along and then
get a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, you get a fresh set of eyes and you have an answer in 15 minutes.
Yep.
I think that that's a good point that you bring up.
It's just like working on a problem and setting it down and then coming back 2 or 3 days later and you can solve it immediately.
Yeah, sometimes that is what you need. I don't think that that's. I don't want to say we need to get rid of experts in these fields.
No,
it's
that's
just
not what I'm saying at all. Yeah,
sometimes the experts need someone who's not so seeped into the institutional knowledge that's all that they deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So, what role should the state be having when it comes to setting curriculum? Is that a school board decision? Is that a parents' decision? Is that the state legislature?
Here's
where do you come down?
And one of the things with this particular legislation, obviously the state and the state DOE, they set the standards. Schools adopt curriculum. They teach the standards. One of the things that called for in that bill was these parent committees. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think it was 60% of the committee must be made up of parents and the others teachers. Well, curriculum adoption. Okay. You can have a school team, administrators, teachers working on that an entire summer. I mean, this isn't like 2 meetings and a bake sale, right? And I think it comes down to, I understand why people were upset about some of the curriculum they thought that was being presented or is being presented. But the bottom line is, when you're looking at curriculum, it's not just about taking a book and saying, here's how we teach little Susie to read. Okay. And yes, I approve of that sentence and I approve of this picture in the book. Let's use this book, because that book, the methodology that's used throughout the curriculum may not be what that educator or the educators think is best. So then you're going to get this constant fight. If this had gone through, you're going to have people that say, I want you to use this book because it has the pretty color pictures in it. And I like these and I approve of these. And then you're going to have educators over here saying, but this teaches it better. This allows us to instruct better in black and white pictures of these things. And I think that's where this specific bill and the requirements that they were wanting to put in that, I think that's where it makes a mess, because there are concerns and there are issues, but at the end of the day, there are two groups that from what I see now in my vast 7 years of educational experience, there are two groups that have been hurt over the last 2 decades, and that's teachers and our children. So as a lawmaker, we test the kids too much. We require way too much of the teachers. You look at the lessons that COVID has taught us, okay, and you can pick a topic and you can have a lesson. Our teachers spend all day with other people's children. And if it was a perfect world and teachers could walk into class with the approved curriculum that was set for a year, that didn't have to be changed, that had been gone over, read by parents, all the things. Teachers don't walk into a classroom and class begins at 8:15 and the children sit there and learn politely. And then, they go to recess, they come back, they go to lunch, they come back. I think there's this misconception. Well, they've got the kids for 8 hours a day, and why aren't they doing better? No, they don't. They do not have uninterrupted lesson. They don't have uninterrupted time. They're small children, run a kindergarten class, running. It's herding cats just to go to the bathroom.
It's amazing how much people forget about what school is like.
Yeah. So, you and I, we go to work. If you're going to work and you sit at your desk, you're going to sit at your desk at 8 hours, type away. You're going to get your job done. You may or may not have distractions.
Their entire existence.
Is distractions. And my nose is running and I'm upset. And when you talk about CRT and then the SEL, you define, what is SEL? What's social emotional learning?
It's just like with critical race theory. It's like one of those things where you look up a definition, you try to find a definition online, and you'll get 30 different answers.
So in education, when you talk about social emotional learning,
Nancy brought a binder, Dakota.
I did, because I'm old and I can't remember, but I know where to look all this stuff up. And it's publicly available. So if you really have a question about what SEL is, it's already available online to look up.
Yeah.
So just
you can
for
already
instance,
find all this stuff on the state website.
Yeah. SEL, as part of the Indiana Employability Skills Standards, okay, from kindergarten through 12th grade. Here's your SEL for kindergarten. You teach them to recognize and manage one's emotions. Demonstrate the ability to network with others through social awareness and cultural sensitivity.
For 5-year-olds?
5-year-olds.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Which means become aware of socially acceptable behavior with the support of an adult educator. And that's
for 5-year-olds. That's
don't pick your nose and eat your boogers
at the dinner table.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Don't hit them.
Don't. Hands off.
Don't hit people. Don't break their things, which is the same thing I ask for from the government, really.
Yeah. Collaboration, work well with others in a team. So you teach them to work responsibly as a group. That's social emotional learning. And all those skills that we learn early on carry on through our adult lives. Mm-hmm. So again, you're right. You can look up SEL and you get all kinds of definitions, but in Indiana education, they're clearly, the expectation is clearly written.
So are you satisfied with the outcome?
Yes. I did not want that bill to be passed.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. And one thing that I liked hearing you say with regards to like the parent and teacher committees is like producer Zach brought this up whenever we talked about it on the show the first time. He's like, Zach was like, we have a PTA at every school and no one gets involved already.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
yes.
Like teachers are already required, or schools, not teachers. Schools are already required by law to have the curriculum for that semester published somewhere. Like it doesn't have to be online, but it can be like you call the office and ask for it and they give it to you.
Yeah. You can go into a public school and public schools are public schools. Charter schools, I know there's an argument they're not. We are a public school. You can walk into our school just like you walk into any other public school. You can ask for that information and we will freely give it.
I will.
It's a weird bill.
As a word of caution to any legislators, we spend a whole lot of money. The state universities, Ball State University, Indiana University, where we have public funds that go into the education of new teachers. Mm-hmm. And you have the system that we have set up right now. Your young new teachers don't make it. I'm married to one. She lasted 3 years as a public school teacher, and now she's in medical, pharmaceutical sales recruiting, staffing that stuff.
Well,
it's just we invest as a state into producing new teachers, and then they get it put into a situation that doesn't work, and then you lose them, and they go do something else.
There's only so much time in a day. And the more regulations and the more, okay, we're going to teach the kids, they have to, patriotic stuff, all the things that they toss in there. Those teachers only have so many hours in a day. Okay. They have to be able to focus on, math skills, reading skills. We throw so much at them that it is impossible for them to achieve what they need to achieve. And then we're rating those teachers because the kids, they're not maybe performing where lawmakers or the state thinks they need to be, but we're not giving teachers the ability to spend the time to let the kids master something. Mm-hmm. Everything's shoved through. And
it's a whole weird thing about what that does to kids too. Because if you're not a good, stereotypical student, right, then that just will lead a kid to think that they're destined to be a loser. Mm-hmm. Like I could not sit still in classes. I hated just going to like regular school. Mm-hmm. As soon as I found building trades, it was like a lifesaver. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Found your special purpose, Dakota.
Because it's hands-on and you could move around and you wouldn't feel trapped in a classroom. Yes.
But it was weird because I can remember being, younger and being like, I like feeling like I was just destined to not do well in life because I didn't fit the mold. And so that's just, and I think that if we continue to ramp up standardized testing and we continue to just try to make teachers make kids fit into these boxes, then you're going to create more of those problems.
The best thing you can do. We have to let teachers teach. And I have said this 100 times, it seems like. There is not a teacher standing in the front of the classroom right now in the state of Indiana that is doing it for the money. Everybody says, teachers need to get paid more. And they do. They do. But you know what? If they were concerned about the money, they'd have quit a long time ago. Teachers are passionate about education. They just want to be able to teach. And it seems like state government keeps tying their hands and throwing more on them. And that has to stop.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point for us to transition from education into our next topic. Because we have a lot of stuff we want to get through. And we could keep you here for 4 hours, Nancy. And I'm sure you'd stay, but Dakota would panic on me after 2 and run out the door.
We can talk about education for another 2 hours, I think.
Mm-hmm. Economic development is a big deal for the state of Indiana and for East Central Indiana. What role do you think the state representative should play in local economic development? So for District 54, helping to fill the industrial park in Rush County, helping to bring new jobs or better paying jobs into the district.
Well, I think that as a state lawmaker, you can help and you can assist in those things, but it definitely has to be a collaboration. It has to be, what does the local community want? What kind of industry do we want to bring in? What are we?
We don't know that we want anything. It was good enough in 1972.
Okay, well,
we hear that a lot around here.
Okay,
yeah.
Bring Chrysler back. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Put us down for one of those.
Yeah, one of those.
Like one of the things I thought about with economic development is you keep hearing about like Intel bringing jobs back from overseas to create chips because of the chip shortage. Mm-hmm. Like we saw all kinds of things happening in industry, and I think that we're going to see more of it happen because of the lessons that we were taught over the past 2 years with the supply chain. So it's like obviously all representatives and the state government is trying to make Indiana like a marketable place. We want ourselves to look good, but it's like one of the questions I had for you is like, what kind of industry do you think we could try to focus to bring here? Like, what do you think we could do? I'll be honest with you, I don't know.
Okay, when you talk about economic development, are you talking about improving your tax base so that your county is fiscally sound and has a great budget and that kind of thing? So if you want to stay in 72, you can't stay back in 1972 because you're going to reach a point. If your assessed evaluation has gone down, your tax base is going down. There's that block you're going to hit.
We can't pay for your emergency services.
Exactly.
We can't pay for your sheriff's department.
Exactly.
We can't cover your fire.
And you'll have people who'll be like, I don't need a sheriff. Okay, well, you kind of do, and other people do. So to me, that's a service that
My
the government
house has never been on fire.
Oh, you should have not said that. That's a big mistake.
That's
a big mistake.
I'm an electrician. I do it all right. It's the guy who built it in 73.
Dakota, on this show, you've made a lot of enemies.
I will tell you, just the experience that I have, and I served on the community planning committee that's working right now in Rush County, and that's a good project. They're working on the community center, but everybody's got to be on, I guess, getting everybody together on the same page. And what direction do you want to go? And you're always going to have different opinions, but at the end of the day, you have to find that common ground.
Do have a big dog food factory coming to Rush County.
We do. So, and that's great. But you have to look at it's not just economic development. Do you have the people here to provide the employees? Okay.
Where are they going to live?
Where are they going to live? Right. And I mean, I think that's a big thing. Single family housing, people, wages are coming up. So you get somebody that wants to come in, start a family. They want a single family house. They don't want an apartment. They don't want a rental, and they don't want a fixer upper. So it's, how are you doing housing development? I guess that's what's not the easy question to answer about what goes on in government, regardless of what layer you're talking about, because everything, the tentacles go out, and it affects everything in one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think that one part of economic development that's like overlooked a lot is you can't just be like, oh, we just want a factory, whatever factory it is. Mm-hmm. We want it here. We just want a job here.
Yep.
Because it's more than just, you don't want your whole populace to just live a soul-sucking existence. It's got to be a good job. And I think that in the state legislature, I think that in government positions, it takes a certain type of leadership to talk with multinational corporations that are looking at the state of Indiana and being real. Like, what kind of job are you thinking about bringing to Indiana? Are you going to be bringing a job that is good for my citizens, or do you think that we are a Rust Belt state that you can take advantage of?
Well, and depending on what the industry is, I mean, take advantage of by, we're going to come in here, we're going to get a tax abatement, and we're not really going to help contribute to your community. We're going to get a huge tax abatement where we're employing like 10 people.
Yeah.
Right. So
we're going to pay them $9.
We're going to put all this equipment in, but we're not going to really pay. You're not going to get much of a benefit.
Bingo.
Of that.
You're not going to get any benefit from it. So,
and then if you have anything bad to say about it, then we're just going to pack up and move to the next place.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you have to come to be able to work as a community and say, okay, this, because somebody's going to have this goal and somebody's going to have this goal, and you've got to find that common middle ground. Because, let's say I can bring Chrysler back. Let's talk about when Chrysler was here. You drive through town now, and back in the heyday, right? People were earning a good wage. Families had houses. They were, what this town used to be when people had good jobs, had single family housing. It brought small businesses opened. It was good for your schools. It was good for your churches. And the more that we lose those things, we're not replacing them. So you're getting these ghost towns. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the economic development portion, it has to be a whole package. It has to be. You can build a factory out here that's going to employ 1,000 people. Do you have the 1,000 people? Okay, you've got 1,000 people that just got off the exit at State Road 3, and they're lining State Road 3 into Newcastle. Where are they going to live? And so it has to be a multifaceted
where are they going
approach.
to live? Where are they going to work? Where are they going to play? What parks do you have?
Yeah.
What do they have to keep them here?
Amenities.
Do you have a community that's walkable? All of that, I think,
All of that.
goes into the conversation, right?
Yes.
So, getting to that magical utopia of a fully functioning economic development system and everything's humming great and things are well, we have to work through the land use discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And we have had a brother against brother, sister against sister fight over how we're going to live together in our community.
There's a windmill in our logo for a reason.
Dealing with wind, dealing with solar. We've had issues with asphalt plants trying to locate in the community and not being able to get approved. Just simple rezones of some of property has been very controversial. To do anything light industrial, there are many opinions in the community and in the district. And I know that there's been some history of the state getting involved in land use, and then we saw this with some bills that were authored in the last 2 years of the General Assembly. Where would you come down? What's the state's role? Is it the county's responsibility? Local boards? Who should be deciding how we live together? What we do?
So again, full disclosure number 2. My brother, my sister, and I own a 160-acre farm that was going to get a wind farm on it. My name is on a wind farm lease for one.
That big dollars. One windmill.
Oh, yeah, and divided by the 3 of us siblings. That was we were making bank. I'm just saying.
That's like $3,500. You were gonna. That's
you're
Lexus
dead
money.
on.
That's
Yeah.
Lexus money.
Yeah.
Probably
So-
a 96, but that's Lexus money.
Yeah. So, for full disclosure,
pre-pandemic.
because I know that's out there. Oh, she's pro wind. And I'm really not pro wind. And yes, I did have a lease. But I will tell you, in learning and looking at especially where we are as a nation right now, and and we've got big solar farms going in. Okay, and there's that discussion on oh my God, we're taking up this farm ground. And at the end of the day, did I have a lease to have a windmill? Yes, I did. Okay, I was part of that project. But at the end of the day, local control went out, right? The decision was made.
Rush County put a moratorium on on wind projects.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And made the setback, the zoning change, that they moved the setbacks, and those are by people who are on. I mean, that's how our government works. You win some, you lose some. And
so from your viewpoint, is it going in and potentially being the District 54 representative next session, you wouldn't support a bill that would remove that local control?
No.
You would say that you went if Rush County, Henry County, Shelby County, Hancock County says we're not doing solar, we're not doing wind. That's their decision.
It's your baby. It's like we were talking earlier about township government. There's been talk of doing away with township government, and I don't want to do that. That's the government that's closest to the people, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's not effective," and "Oh, we can't get people to run." And I guess that's one thing that I have really been so astounded by as I've been pursuing this. People don't understand how our government works. If you look at somebody and go, "Who's on your advisory board for your township?" They're like, "Well, I don't know." We've really dropped the ball as citizens. We have. We live in a bubble. We have a great life. So, I want township government to stay.
We pay attention to the president and the governor, and that's about it.
Yes. So
Because that's all that's on TV.
Absolute local control. If Rush County's boards decide they want windmills or don't want windmills, or they want to build dog food factories or not build, again, there's always winners or losers. But ultimately, as long as it is done with local control and the voices of the citizens who live in the communities, then that's what I'll support, and only what I'll support.
Local planning commission, local zoning administrators, local county commissioners.
Because
and
honestly,
it belongs to them.
There's good and bad to that. But my hope is that I know this has been a horrendous fight over wind and solar.
You've seen a complete turnover of county government in Henry County in the last 4 years.
Yes,
total incomplete.
Well, and when I talked about doing this, they're like, they'll work hard. You won't get it. You won't get, you were on that lease. And I'm like, but the government worked like it was supposed to. our local control, so again, it's working. I hope that the bad part of that was that got really ugly. The good part is how many citizens became engaged in the process?
Yeah.
A bunch.
A whole bunch.
And they need to stay engaged.
Got a lot of new folks that have a lot of new responsibilities.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about...
One thing we kept hearing about windmills is that they're going to tear the roads up. So, you're in the state legislature. How are you going to fix my potholes?
Yeah, how are you going to... We got all kinds of money for the state roads. NDOT is flush with cash. Mm-hmm. But I know that Joe Copeland and Joe Wiley are our last two highway engineers here, and probably Jerry sitting down around Rush County as well. I assume Jerry's still in charge. Mm-hmm. They tell us that we have about 800 miles of county road, and they don't have enough money to pay for those 800 miles of road and 200 and some bridges that are in the county inventory. How does that look from the state side?
I think from the state side, and I was reading through a couple of days ago. It's like a 572 page NDOT study on projects and bridge projects, and obviously, the funding's separate from that. But we do have some issues with being able to get the funding and getting additional funding, because our infrastructure is a mess, and it's not just roads and bridges; it's sewer and water. I mean, fire hydrants. How many times do you go? I went by somewhere the other day, and a fire hydrant had heaved out of the ground for whatever reason. So I don't know if it had a water hammer, but all that infrastructure, that has to be fixed. And that's a thing where, with our federal government, instead of giving money for projects that maybe aren't necessarily would not benefit people as much, if we're going to work on infrastructure, then let's truly work on infrastructure. But that's not what happens. And so as far as finding tax dollars to do that, or additional funds for your county highway, it becomes a real issue.
Yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of different things buried in the infrastructure bills that have gotten passed, like the Build Back Better bill that President Biden was trying to pass. And then even in Trump's infrastructure bill, there was a lot of stuff that gets buried in there. And it's like, what's this got to do with infrastructure? Mm-hmm. It's like this, but it's weird. Like the federal government, man, it's so screwed up because they word it that way because if you're against building back better, what?
Mm-hmm.
We have a city councilman here who has made it his. We call it the Jerry Walden project now. It's in the Henry County Master Plan, or the comprehensive plan for the county. And the city councilman here in Newcastle, Jerry Walden, has been advocating to have State Road 3 get an interchange so that Newcastle has a second interchange onto I-70.
103.
Three. Oh, I said 3. Yeah, I'm sorry, Highway 103. Just to the east of State Road 3, or a few miles. Is that
the
something?
The 103?
Highway 103, yes.
So you got New Lisbon, you got 3, yeah, okay.
Yep, and then 109, which is Knightstown. But he's been advocating for 103.
And this is a councilman.
City councilman, yeah.
Okay.
And then it's in the comprehensive plan for Henry County as well, saying that that's a future development opportunity. Any thoughts on the state, on supporting something like that from the state side, or additional roads or infrastructure to tie the communities together, whether it's an interchange at 103 or doing something up in Middletown off of 69, ways to create additional economic activity through road investments?
Well, I think that, number one, and I'm not familiar with the master plan, so obviously getting to know what projects you're looking at. So if you're going to build a total new interchange, what are you planning to do around that interchange?
Yeah, there's nothing there.
So is that a redevelopment area? What's going on? There's a pond. Essentially,
you have a corridor in the 3 county roads that run between State Road 3 and State Road 103, and that's where you're starting to find the light industrial and in warehousing activities. Yeah. So the intention would be that you would be creating an opportunity to get traffic out of Spiceland and off of 3, and having them start to utilize the 103 side,
where it's much more rural. Yeah.
Get traffic out of Spiceland and off of State Road 3 and have them go to Louisville up 40 and then up.
No, they'd be coming from the north. So you've got
Like Crown, when they leave Newcastle, now if they want to go east, they would drop down to 3, which is kind of the wrong way a little bit, and then go to 3. Instead, they could just they're on 103. They could just take 103 out to 70 and not have to go. It'd be a more efficient route for some of those places if they're shipping something east than going on 3.
That is true, for sure.
Well, and I think, the criteria for that in a long-term planning, if the county's wanting to develop something out there, obviously you can approach NDOT to be able to work a project like that. But I think from being a good fiscal point with the state, I don't know how many millions of dollars it would take to put in.
My gut feel would be $15 to $20 million to add an interchange, somewhere in that range.
So, I think, to me, if I'm looking at that, if you're asking the state NDOT to put in that interchange, I want to see what are you going to do out there? Really, what are you going to do? Do you have people that are ready to develop? That's a huge amount of state money to just throw a big construction project like that in on the hopes that something happens.
Yeah, let's get 73 lanes both ways, all the way to Ohio first.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming. That's coming in the next couple of years, and that I think that's the timing that would be important there.
But again, if the Henry County citizens and the Henry County leaders, I will support whatever you're trying to do. But the thing is, you've got to also give me the tools to support you, because I can't go to NDOT and say, hey, we really want to build a $10 million interchange out here. Not just because Jeremiah and Dakota say so, but because we've got 2 factories coming in. We've got some leisure and entertainment stuff going, something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you've also got the and we'll get into the food and beverage tax in a minute, but there is also a proposed $16 million youth sports facility that's proposed to go onto County Road 300 South.
What kind of sports?
Baseball, softball, basketball, wrestling, youth sports.
Tennis, volleyball. It's a huge complex. We also, one thing that we were talking about with some friends this week was it was brought up in 2008, the General Assembly voted to pause the state gas taxes due to the extremely high gas prices or fuel prices that we were seeing across the state of Indiana. That was whenever they reached $4 a gallon back then. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that, or if you would support an action to do that again, because they've gone up significantly since then.
I believe just as the General Assembly was closing, the Democrat side had said, hey, let's pause the gas tax until July because of the inflated prices.
Well, and obviously we can't do it now. Session's over, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
although I think O'Bannon might have done it himself. He may have done it by
executive order pens.
Yeah.
I am aware of that. I don't know if we can do that, but that would be something good to find out.
Yeah.
I think the thing too, on the gas tax and the current situation we're in, so I'll take you guys down rabbit holes all day. When you are looking at, the current national situation, we've been importing 671,000 barrels of oil from Russia. That's cut off. As a country now, we're going to buy oil from Venezuela, Iran, and UAE.
Yeah.
UAE. Yeah. Okay. So, for those people, and hey, I'm all for America being energy independent. That's what needs to happen. But we can't restart that on a dime. We are going to have these gas prices, and I at least until fall. I about bet you, because you can't. People say do the Keystone pipeline project. It's not like that thing was done and we can go turn the spigot on and oil's flowing. It's not even completed. So that's a construction project.
Yep.
Yeah. And
it was midstream.
The Trans-Canada company said that they wouldn't do it anyway.
They had invested in the thing and the rug got ripped out from underneath.
Exactly. And that's something that, we can't do.
Right.
So,
yeah. And I think that this is me not being unbiased, but if you were to pause a gas tax for a short period of time, it's much like student loan relief. At some point, you have to turn it back on.
Yes.
So if you're going to continue with the projects you have, to what end, right? Yes, you could provide relief for 30 days, but where does that leave you, or does it get you, other than unplugging a bunch of other projects that you had funded where you were going to where you were going to redo State Road.
That's just because you
State
work
Road
in
3 or
road
I-70.
construction.
Yeah,
Selfish.
we have some of us have firsthand knowledge of the way it's going to work.
Well, and from when you look at it from the human side of things, so okay, yeah, I'm for let's do a 30-day moratorium on gas tax.
Sure, it's great for 30 days.
That's great for 30 days.
Stings
So you
little
got
when it
people
comes
grumbling about it now. Then they're going to go back to cheaper gas. Then you're going to go back. Okay, that moratorium's over.
You absorb it back into your lifestyle.
And then
watch for the day that they have to start making student loan payments again, right?
Yeah.
Because we haven't had that for nearly 2 years, and folks have found other ways to spend that money, and they haven't necessarily paid it down. Something very similar is going to happen if we were to suspend gas taxes.
Yep.
City Councilman Mike Guffey, also a Newcastle City Councilman. We're up to 2 city councilmen weighing in so far on this. He's also supportive of the interchange. So you've got a lot of folks to talk to, Nancy.
Well, and again,
learn these Newcastle issues.
It's a learning curve, but also, I mean, I'll fight for you guys. I'll fight for the district, but you got to give me something to fight with, right? So, these guys, if we're working to promote this project, then again, I'm all about data and I'm all about, I will fight for you, but you got to give me.
It doesn't make sense to build the interchange to get people to invest here. We need to get people to invest here, and that is the reason we built the interchange.
A good example is the interchange that was built down in the Greensburg area. They had an interchange that came in when Honda was announced, right? So as a portion of the Honda project, when that was announced and built, NDOT within a year had a new interchange built that went straight into that factory.
Yeah, that's a great observation.
All right, so let's talk about the topic that has been the bane of our existence for the last 2 years on this show and in the world, and that's COVID. The General Assembly and the executive branch, the governor, have had a power struggle over the last couple of years. When the General Assembly is not in place, the governor runs the state, and we've had, I don't know what the final number of executive orders was, but I think it was in the 20s. Of continuing to declare and redeclare the emergency order. Are you supportive of the authority? Should there be changes? Have you spent some time thinking about this and formulating an idea? Because I'd imagine running for this office, somebody's asked you a time or two. She's flipping through her binder. She's got it. I can see the outline. I'm very familiar with these executive orders look like, and she's got something highlighted.
So first of all, the emergency side, the emergency management background, the governor has to have the ability to declare an emergency. They have to, for the safety of the citizens. Our governor has to have that sole authority.
You don't want to take that away.
No.
You don't want to have to call a special session to be able to deal with something.
Hang on. Given what has happened with COVID and the different things that have happened, I think that a lot of the ill feelings that we have, and I hear different versions of the governor would talk to us, the governor didn't talk to us. When we get in a real, if we get hit by a massive tornado outbreak, the governor could declare a state of emergency. They need that power. Okay, get into something like COVID where we are, a natural disaster is specific. So maybe let's say that affected Rush and Shelby and Hancock and Henry counties. Didn't affect the whole state. I think we have to, and you also have to remember, this is in the Constitution, right? On who can call the General Assembly, and there's some big pieces to this puzzle, and I think it needs to be looked at because I can see through COVID that someone having the sole discretion without calling in the representatives of the people at some point. So if that point's 60 days, I don't know what that magic number is, but I think we got to a point where there was so much animosity and power struggles. And then the citizens, nobody knew what to do. I mean, COVID, like I said, COVID has taught us so many lessons. So you can't just walk in and say, by God, the governor cannot have the authority to do that, because they need the authority to do that in an emergency. However, maybe we need to constitutionally do something, change some things around so that, at least they're calling in maybe even the leaders of both both houses, minority and majority, to get a perspective.
What happens if there's a third or a fourth party? And are you going to constitutionally discriminate against us?
We will not discriminate against you.
How dare you, Nancy?
I'm so sorry.
I don't know about a fourth party.
Anybody can come play. But it is. I think it is time for the after action report, right? It's time to go through what worked and what didn't, and not judge it on emotion, but judge it in a true sense of how can we do this better next time? And it may require some constitutional changes. That's not an easy thing. You can't just wave a magic wand. I think it will be really bad if we don't take this opportunity to learn from what happened and how we could do it better. So.
All right. I think that's a thoughtful response. I appreciate that. And maybe the answer is 60 days, right? Maybe the governor can say you have 60 days and the Constitution says that it has to be reauthorized by the General Assembly. And that gives them time to
it could say he has 60 days, and then if it needs reauthorization, okay, then the governor has to call a special session. Yeah. But the voice of the people has to be heard, because that was the biggest thing with COVID. What business is essential and what business is not.
As popular as the Libertarian Party is and has become, you saw the dissension amongst the citizens of the state of Indiana with the vote totals Don Rainwater received in the governor's race.
I did.
Yep.
And that should be a wake-up call. That was a shot across the bow. Is exactly what that was.
All right.
Is my personal. That was a shot across the bow.
It should be something that gets the attention of the folks that are serving.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about an issue that we've been covering as this bill has been making its way through the General Assembly.
We've been beating this horse a lot.
Dakota, take the reins of the horse.
Food and beverage tax. We've talked about this and everything that was going on in Henry County. If you want to get a good update on that, actually, you can go to Grow in Henry. Is it .org? That's the Henry County, Indiana Economic Development Corporation's website. They have a really good little article, press release, our friend Corey put out that had all of the recommendations that were sent over from the board. It was really good, very concise, well put together. Anyway, back to this. The counties in Indiana right now have the ability to place a 1% tax on go to pizza. Yeah.
Certain counties have received the authority. Rush County never did. Henry County did.
Henry County does, yes.
And what has happened is that the state has essentially determined that there's going to be a sunset.
In 20 years, so 2042.
Correct.
Did it pass through the House?
It's passed and it's done.
Oh.
It could be undone, but it's been passed. But what it is,
the state's website is not up to date.
It's still there. But it's now going to affect bonding capacity. So even though you have it still for the next 20 years for Henry County, it essentially drops down the ability of this committee in future projects.
Correct. Because it it sunsets in 2042. So, if you're going to do your bond,
2042 sounds like it's forever away. And then you say 20 years.
Not in the life of a bond.
And I want to kill myself at that point because I'm not that old, Dakota.
So, you can still do it. You can still do your projects. Just make sure that the bonds are paid by
42.
42. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts? Are you happy to see the sunset, or do you think that it's taken a tool away from the locals? I think it happened kind of quietly at the state level, but it got some attention in Henry County, but obviously not enough to make a difference in this cycle.
Have they given any indication as to what they're going to allow counties to use in place of that? And straight up, I haven't read all that language, so
I think it's just gone, right?
It's just gone.
It was tied to Lucas Oil Stadium, and a couple of key projects got an exemption. I think maybe some of the casinos did, Orange County, but anybody else that was, once Lucas Oil Stadium's paid for, just wipe the slate clean, and everybody loses their extra 1%.
It was a previous guest that introduced that bill, Senator
Gaskell. Yeah.
Yep. So that goes away. Then that leaves locals with the ability to basically only raise income tax, an option income tax or something to fund those kind of programs in the future. That essentially that's all that's left. And so you're not going to raise property taxes.
The problem with that is like right now, this is this is dedicated to specific projects. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a neat and healthy thing for community. Like here, there's been a lot of community input. You know, I know like at my job, even we've been talking about it and the projects that are proposed and things.
And if I remember correctly, it's for parks and recreation. It's for community enhancement, tourism. Yeah.
Tourism. Yeah.
And the thing, if you just raise the local income tax, then it's just going to get spent
wherever.
You know, it's not going to be saved up and then put towards a neat community bonding project, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of disappointing, but.
Well, and that may be an area where you can form a different commission that is like a, you know, for all the things that food and beverage tax would go for. You know, you can form something here.
You can certainly do it on a voluntary basis, but what they did is they were able to use. It started with the Basketball Hall of Fame, and
that's what built that.
They put a 1% tax in place, and once that was paid for, then those funds were then used to fund Ivy Tech, and that turned from a Chevy dealership into a local community college. And then you've seen some additions at in the Memorial Park with the Saddle Club and some other projects across the state. And
I think maybe too, and I have heard some discussion. It's kind of one of the issues with it was that counties charged that tax, right? Like to build building A. And then it's like, oh, we'll just keep that on and we want to do this. And, oh, we'll just. Right. So it's a perpetual tax that goes on. The taxpayers, we're told we're only going to do this.
We're going to do it for this. And then it was a tax that never sunset. And then a committee would be formed and they say, okay, we've got this pool of money. How can we use it for good?
It's like the Patriot Act. It sticks around.
So there are, and it's a legitimate conversation of is it appropriate to sunset something like that? Or should the local community say, hey, do we want to sunset this? Or do we want to say, hey, we like this and the tools it's doing. Do we want to move forward? There's a portion of folks in the community that say, hey, the state just took away one of our tools. Now we can't do this even if we want to. If we wanted to kill it, we could, but now we can't do that. The state did that for us.
Well, you can go to LGF and you can increase your local income option tax and replace it, right?
I mean, the thing I like about that tax, though, is that they put it into tourism type projects, and then you can make the tax revenue go up if you properly invest it. And and hopefully by people who are coming to your town. So instead of like a local option income tax, which is taxing the people who already live here, you're hopefully shifting some of that tax burden onto people that are coming into your community. So you're bringing money into the economy and you're incentivizing that.
So the recommendations they had is there was about a $237,000 investment that would have been made. It will, I guess, the tax is still there. So what this will be used for this time, as an example, the top scoring project was the John Jordan Arena getting enclosed, which helps bring horse shows that would maybe have gone to Springfield, Ohio or Cloverdale, Indiana into Henry County. And then that's going to put people in your hotels. It's going to put people in your restaurants, et cetera.
Well, I mean, that thing, and again, not being in the legislature right now. Okay. Obviously this has been used to fund a lot of really great projects. So I would be interested to know, other than the fact that if we told people it was going to be used for this and then we continued it, right? I would like to know the information on what was the driving force behind sunsetting it.
Yep.
I mean,
and I think that was the state decision that was made. And I think that's where we complain about a lot of stuff in our area. We really do. Like we have had the pitchforks and the signs and the whole gamut over chickens. We've had fights over statues. We've had fights over windmills and solar. This was not unpopular with the locals. It's really surprising that this tax was not unpopular.
Well, and at the end of the day, like you said, it passed now, but if that's what the citizens want me, if they elect me and that's what they want me to go to do, I'll go fight for them to get that back.
All right.
Because again, it's about what are the needs of the local people.
So what I'm hearing is that you're very receptive to listening to
absolutely
the folks that elect you. You don't necessarily have an agenda of your own or something that you're concerned about. You want to represent what you hear from folks. That's the From our conversation, that's the feeling I'm getting.
Yes. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is to get people to start talking again, to come up with reasonable solutions to things that works good for everybody in the community. And, you're not going to make everybody happy, right? And the big thing is, regardless of what we're dealing with, so I don't back down. I don't go along to get along. That is not who I am. So if I am elected, I probably won't be very popular with a lot of Republicans. And I don't care, because I am tired of the people not being represented. And at the same time, I can be bold for you and I can stand up for the citizens of this district, but they've got to give back too, because, I can't go to war alone. Okay. And we're not just fighting the battle. We want to win the war. And that takes citizens getting involved. And if I don't accomplish anything else, I want to accomplish that. And we've learned enough life lessons in the last 2.5 years on, taxes, restrictions, freedoms being taken away, all the things. We really need to do we need a gut check. And
there's one more area that I would be negligent in my hosting duties on the network, and Chris Spangle would take us off the air if I didn't ask a question of the folks running for state representative. That didn't occur to me until tonight, Dakota. We need to be asking folks about cannabis reform.
I thought about that whenever I was writing the show notes.
Do you have any opinion on recreational, medicinal, or prohibition of cannabis? We've seen we can buy cold beer on Sundays for 8 hours a day, so we got a little bit of freedom back from the General Assembly, and I think you've got some CBD oils allowed.
I mean, I assume you were getting a windmill, so.
But I didn't.
Any opinion on the cannabis front, on legalization or medical, or any expectation of a policy change from state representatives?
This is where
Custer?
This is where I need the people of District 4 to understand my personal views go out the window when I'm a representative. Okay.
So fill out your constituent survey, and you're gonna fill out. You're gonna
you meet me at Walmart at 2:00 in the morning. We'll sit on the tailgate of the truck and have a talk. What I'm telling you is, so many of the candidates are like, "This is how it needs to be. This is what needs to happen." No, my personal opinion doesn't matter anymore. Okay, my personal opinion does not matter. What matters is what the opinion is of the voters in this district. Now, the marijuana, and I will have the hard talks. I will have the hard talks, and I will make people talk back. So marijuana is illegal per the feds, right? You obviously have two sides polarized like this, good, bad, but nobody really sits down and has a conversation. And that's where that needs to change. Marijuana, while some people say it's a gateway drug, okay, there's others that say it's not. There are states around us, okay, that it's legal, recreational or medical or both, or just, totally legal. There's arguments, well, we're just doing it for the money. We just want to get the money. We want to start bringing the money in. Okay. That may be somebody's motivation. It also may be somebody's motivation. When you have veterans testifying that they would rather be able to eat a gummy instead of take Prozac and all the things they have to take to deal with their stress, we have to start thinking as human beings. You always have to follow the money, and typically that's where we all go. It's follow the money. But at some point, we need to start thinking like humans, and not necessarily assuming something. It's not the devil's lettuce. It's a little gummy bear. You have people who are terminally ill, whose quality of life is awful. who are so drugged up from prescription drugs to maintain the last portion, a few months, weeks, or whatever their life, that they are incoherent. They're sitting in a chair drilling all day. I have seen those terminal people have family members drive across the state line, buy some gummies, and come back, and that person go off the prescription painkillers, be able to utilize that medical marijuana in the form of those gummies, and sit and be able to read a book to her grandchildren before she died. And those are the kind of things that I think people need to understand, that, this isn't about, oh my gosh, it's marijuana. It's an example just like that makes a difference in people's lives. And we all have to consider those things. Because, you talk about what's the quality of life and what's important to us as human beings. Something like that, that's important. You have to be willing to look at that. Because if you tell me I am so against marijuana because it's evil, it's whatever, I want you to look at me in the eye, and I want you to think about that woman who's suffering from cancer, who was so drugged up on prescription medications that she was incoherent, sitting in a daze in a chair, versus that grandmother who was able to get off those, eat some gummies, and have her grandchildren sit on her lap, read a book to them, and spend time with them before she died.
So I'm sensing you're at least a yes to medical.
Yes.
And for recreational?
Yes.
All right. So we're not going to arrest, if Nancy's in charge, we're not going to arrest tourists that are going from California to New York State on I-70, and we're not going to put their Ziploc baggies on the hood of the car and act like it's a big drug bust.
That's that's more of a question for the guys that we're going to be asking to be in charge of the law here in a couple weeks.
Well, that's for the sheriff's department, but if it's not a law anymore, then it's not a problem.
I mean, come on. I mean, and there seems to be the hang up. Nobody will do anything because, the feds haven't changed it. The feds are also not enforced. Look at all the states around us.
You've got 36 states that have made this change.
That's always been Governor Holcomb's excuse for why he wouldn't move on any kind of marijuana reform, is that it's still illegal at the federal level, and he was going to wait on that. So,
all right.
Well, yeah, no.
Which I think is a dumb excuse. I don't like.
Back to what are my personal opinions? My personal opinions don't matter after I'm elected. I have to do what the constituents want.
All right. Well, we are getting to the point in the show where we start to get into final thoughts. Everybody gets a chance to get something off their chest, anything we forgot to clean up, et cetera, et cetera. We'll start with you, producer Zach. Is there anything that you wanted to ask? Any part of the conversation that you wanted? Anything you heard that you didn't get fully answered? Questions you might have as a parent and as a voting citizen?
No, I'm glad you brought the marijuana discussion, especially if you look at communities too that are struggling with the opioid epidemic. And that could be something that could, if you keep people from having to get on opioids to begin with, then that's a start. Because people think about how bad they think weed will be for a community. Go look and see what opioids, which start out as prescribed by a doctor medications, what they do to some people's lives. And it's worse than, I don't know if anybody that's ever done anything terrible because they need their weed fix. Yeah. But you normally think those people, they don't really go out and do much. But it's been this is my favorite time of year. I get to meet all these new people, and they're thinking good things for Indiana and trying to do good things. So,
well, very good. Nancy, is there anything we've if people want to get a yard sign, if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate? I beat up candidates for not asking for money because there's gas money involved. You have to fund this stuff.
I can give you a link if you want to send a contribution. It's P.O. Box 393. Rushville, Indiana, 46173.
All right.
To Friends of Nancy Custer Committee. Appreciate any of the support that I can get. What was the second part of your question?
You have volunteer opportunities, yard signs, and people have
my
more
yard
information.
signs just came in today, as a matter of fact.
All right.
Because, we have a logistical supply problem in this country and everything's backlogged. But, hey.
Facebook page.
America?
Facebook page to follow.
They were made in America. I'm sorry.
Is there a Facebook page to follow if folks want more information? They want to volunteer, any of that stuff.
Facebook.com, Custer Iron House 54. I just linked it in the chat.
Very nice.
Thank you. I will say, however, though, and some of us candidates have been discussing, our pages seem to be throttled for some reason.
We don't get
Do you have trouble with that? Do you have trouble with big tech?
with our page. Basically what we do is just we get on Facebook once a week now for the live stream, and that's it. Because it is weird. I used to take some time every morning, and I would schedule posts to drop like every 3 hours throughout the day, and we would get some interaction. And then all of a sudden it just dried up and we weren't getting anything. And that was, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, we had to go through. There were a lot of accusations about political censorship, and we had to do some verification. And since the time that all happened, just pages in general, Facebook does not serve pages in general nearly as much as it used to.
So it became so time, like, why was I wasting my time?
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it's probably been about 18 months, and it's now our Facebook is, we have fans on Facebook who know that at 7:20 we are going to go live, and that is what our Facebook is for. And because they didn't show people our stuff. It's weird.
Anything else we need to cover on your side, Dakota? Got all your questions answered?
My side?
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy the candidate series every year. I'm looking forward to getting everybody in here. It is, some more work, but it's fun. Ask me in 8 weeks how much fun it is.
How much fun we've been having.
Do I have to wait for 8 weeks to see if I...
Maybe even 9.
In 9 weeks, there's an election or a primary.
We have a pretty eclectic group of candidates coming in. Like, there have been times where it's been like 6 weeks of asking the exact same questions,
Doing the same race over and over and over again. You want to gouge your eyes out.
And that's horrible. It's broken up more. I think it's going to be more entertaining for the listeners this year than what it has been previously. We have a really packed sheriff's race. We're having the prosecutors on for the first time. So that's interesting. We have a very crowded District 54 race. So we'll have more candidates on next week. So
I think we're going to have the recorders race on as well. This is the first of what I think are going to be 3 nights just focused on District 54. And then whoever wins the Republican side, we're going to invite them back on as well, and we'll have Nan Polk on with who will be the Democrat candidate once we get to the fall. It's a long and winding road to get to the November ballot.
Nan lucked out she didn't have to come on this early in the year. She's got a lot more time to prepare.
Nan's been a guest before, wearing another hat. Everybody in small town Indiana, everybody has 7 jobs. Nancy's described about 3 of her responsibilities already tonight, and potentially she's going to add 1 more. But yeah, we all have multiple organizations we're a part of, and that's just the way it works. I will put it. It sounds like if Nancy Custer is our representative, it's gonna take citizen lobbying to get things done. So I'm going to remind her, just like I did Representative Saunders, that Indiana is one of only 8 or 9 states left that still has straight ticket voting, and he was kind enough to use one of his bills to carry that, eliminating that from the state of Indiana. I'm still hopeful that we can get that done, and Indiana can come out of the dark ages, because there's some rough history there, and it doesn't help the political process.
They always got killed in committee, but he tried.
Yep. We appreciate you very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself, and we did okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that I want to leave voters with, because everybody's like, oh my God, she's for medical marijuana. That'll be the thing, right?
Yep.
I
don't think that's the thing at all. I think we spent a lot of time on education, economic development, land use.
Who is still concerned about medical marijuana in this day and age?
A lot
it's
of people.
2022.
A lot of people.
How long ago was Cheech and Chong made?
Well, but see, here's the thing, and this is the whole point of why I want to run. Nobody has discussions.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. We're sitting around talking right now.
We are, and I want to come back and do this again, and because I think it's important that there are people who are going to disagree with all, we're all going to have differences of opinion. I will represent you as a district. But you always have to be able to really look at something, put yourself in the other person's shoes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, whenever you're talking about the people who would benefit from it, just veterans groups. I know that Jim Lucas is one that always carries this torch brightly into the General Assembly every year, and he always talks about like a little girl that he knew with epilepsy, and
yes,
they moved from the state because cannabis was the only thing that they found that actually worked for her, and it took her off of like 11 different medications.
I know a family from Northern Rush County that happened to 6-7 years ago, and they had a child that was 6 years old, epileptic. They moved to Florida.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's sad, but it's not that uncommon.
Yeah.
Yep. You're literally driving citizens away. And by the way,
billboards in northern Indiana that are advertising pot shops.
I mean, let's face
that
it.
Tell you how many miles it is to the Michigan border.
Exactly.
Prohibition doesn't stop anything.
Exactly.
It just drives people underground, and it's
doesn't
the reason,
need to be a black market.
One of the reasons why we have to build all these new fancy jails, right? Rush County just got a jail. Hancock County's getting a brand new jail. Henry County's building a new jail, and I'm not sure what Shelby County's plan is, but I would not be shocked if they've also had to do it. So with that, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You guys will, the voters will. I'm open. I'm transparent. I'll debate with you. At the end of the day, and if I do debate with you, it's because I want all the points brought out there so we can make good decisions and not maybe get stuck in our own bubbles. But I will represent the people of the district, and I will stand up for you. And how much time do I have?
Oh, you pick. When you're done, we're done.
Okay, so you talked about COVID. We talked about school closure, closing down the country, closing down the state. So we believe, and me, myself as president of the board, but our entire board believes in parent choice. And they're your kids. You're their parent. You make the call. So when we got ready to start this school year, the mask mandate was obviously still in force. And the governor issued this executive order. And, we were, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? The kids are coming back to school because we'd been out the previous year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in his executive order, 20-39. So there's 39. So it talked about kids coming back to school, and it talks about the social distancing. And this is where it is so important for voters to pay attention, to read the laws, to read the language. Okay. So when you're looking at this executive order, it says the kids have to be masked and social distance 6 feet, got to wear masks, right? And everybody's like, okay. But, then as that went on, right, everybody's getting tired of the masks, and we just had a recent thing where one of my opponents was like, a parent had contacted them and we want these masks off these kids. And they start this bigger, let's start a petition. Let's do a rally. Let's take the masks off the kids. It's kind of a day late and a dollar short because, the Ukrainian war started and COVID ended suddenly.
Yeah.
But,
it ended because of the State of the Union address, actually.
So anyway, the mask mandates were already on their way out. I will tell you that
I think a large Labrador just died above us. I don't know what happened in the apartment.
when this executive order came out, and for the people that wanted to complain that the governor was being restrictive, did anybody bother to read the executive order? There's exemptions, right? Okay. So we looked at the executive order. And we knew that parents, some parents wanted their kids in masks, some didn't. So every school in the state went with, well, we've got to keep the kids masked because we got to follow this mandate. If we don't get our money. Not true. And you could have gone with this mandate because when it talks about the classroom settings, it gives the rule, gives the mandate, but then it gives exceptions. And under exceptions in classroom settings, it says where a classroom or place of instruction can be configured so that all students can maintain at least 3 feet of social distancing from one another at all times, and where students are positioned to face the same direction, face coverings or face shields do not need to be worn during the in-person educational instruction by students. Instructors must wear a face covering or face shield unless the instructor can maintain 6 feet of social distancing. Now,
So they didn't actually need it all the time.
what does that mean? So like lots of teachers set their desks up in pods. Okay. So if you think of it, if you got a kid in a desk and they got to be 3 feet, not 3 feet between desks. That's not what it says.
3 feet between the kids.
3 feet between the kids. They got to face. So we're going to go back old school. Everybody's desks are in a row, facing forward. And that's exactly what we did. And we sat the kids in the chair, in the seats. You put the kid in the desk. You put the next kid in front. You put a yardstick on the tip of this kid's nose, center to the back of the other student's head. You know, you had to move desks like 2 inches. Now, had teachers been told, had administrators who had classroom teachers, because they are amazing, had you told them, all you got to have is 3 feet between the kid, move your desks, and they had to move desks 2 inches to make that happen, do you not think the teachers of this state would have been like, I'm reconfiguring my classroom, I'll be done in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm moving my
I don't wanna
bookcase
have to
out.
deal with this drama anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they weren't given the option. They weren't given the option because what was presented was the main part of the executive order, but the exceptions were never written. Right. I read everything. Everything. And I do the same with legislation, and we have to do that as citizens. You know, and that's why I say, you know, the petitions, and it's not just local here that happened with one of the other candidates in my race, but I see this statewide, get these masks off our kid. And I'm like, have you gone to school and asked the teachers if they can configure their room so the kids face forward and sit 3 feet apart? Because that's all you need.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of this conversation is it's about more than just the COVID response, right?
It is.
Because this is much like when you run on a single issue and you get elected to a county office,
yes,
or a township office. The issue you care about, you can take care of that, but that is a small part of the world of the responsibilities of the office you're signing up for.
Yes,
so
yes.
The way you're able to apply your skill set across the board and to govern is very important.
Yes, I mean, like, so I had a lawmaker tell me about they were sitting in an ag committee meeting. There was an urban lawmaker that was on the committee. Mm-hmm. They were talking about fertilizer tenders, okay? And the hearing's going on, and the urban lawmaker stopped and said, wait a minute. You guys are going to have to explain this to me. And this is a committee member on the ag committee. I don't know what the only tender I know anything about is a chicken tender. What's a fertilizer tender? But kudos to the lawmaker for asking.
Yeah, for having the conversation.
For having that conversation, because you know, and this is what is good about what I want to bring to government and to represent the people of District 54. Because let's take that scenario. And so it was an ag committee, and they're talking about fertilizer tenders. Let's say it was liquid fertilizer. We're talking about that. Let's say the problem was IDEM was there and environmentalists were there saying, we've had 12 spills this year. We need to pass new regulations. There need to be bigger fines. You know, and people go, oh, yeah, you know, they spilled some fertilizer. We need to, you know, do something about that. I'm the kind of person who's going to say, how did it get spilled? Did they get hit broadside by a semi or another vehicle? You know, did they not have it properly secured? Because, you know, right. I mean, and those are the things. Before you go passing laws, you really need
law not followed. Yeah,
exactly. And do we really need a law to solve this problem?
Yeah, laws are sometimes wonderful ideas, but eventually, guys with guns have to come by to enforce them. Mm-hmm. Right? When you make it a government issue, you initiate force. And when you say, we're going to do this, if somebody says, no, I'm not, eventually the thing that happens is a guy at the end of the line every time, a guy wearing a badge has to show up and it can potentially turn violent. So you need to determine if the state truly needs to be involved and if you need a law for that, right?
Well, and I think being a good citizen and knowing, there are laws that we have, like, okay, seatbelt laws. People argued about that. That's I don't want to wear a seatbelt. But I think of it, my perspective that I bring to it from an emergency services standpoint, I've responded to wrecks. I've seen horrible things. People die. And while we're all adults and we have free will and you may or may not choose to wear your seatbelt, it's also a requirement we put kids in safety seats. And this is where I struggle as an American and supporting my Constitution and my freedoms, because I've responded to a wreck when children weren't in that car seat.
Yep.
And it's not good.
And there's a difference between a consenting adult
and a minor
and a minor, right?
Yes,
where they don't
correct.
they don't have the ability to think for themselves.
Correct.
And make the right decisions.
So in that case, when that was made a law, I think that's good for that very reason. That there are certain things that we have to step up as a society and as a government and protect, but not everything.
Yep. All right. Well, I appreciate your time very much.
I love to talk. I will
Yep.
come and talk to you anytime, because I'm telling you, I can take you down rabbit holes like you've never been.
Well, we appreciate you very much.
We appreciate you.
We will. We'll be back next week with a couple more candidates from this race.
That's right.
All right. Everybody, stay safe, drive safe. We'll catch you all next week.
Thank you.